I'm Terri Malik.
And I'm Jared Treadway, and we're inviting you to co-create with us.
From our home base in North Central Texas.
We're hosting conversations that nourish our mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual intelligence.
We are about being spiritually physical.
And physically spiritual.
We are about inspiration.
And aspiration.
We are about involution.
And evolution. We're about self-exploration
and self-excavation. We are about each of us coming to know ourselves in our fullness and wholeness,
so that together we serve the expansion of human consciousness
with the gifts of our specific genius.
Welcome to 33 North, 96 West.
Greetings and welcome to this, the 16th episode of 33 North, 96 West. I am super excited for this episode. As you all are aware, if you've been following the podcast or our Facebook channels, Terri is on an adventure with her partner Tim, and we've been communicating back and forth by messenger to develop the topic for this episode, and we weren't sure if we were going to be able to find a time when she and Tim were on the grid so that we could connect live. And so what we've done actually is, after corresponding back and forth just a bit about today's topic, she self-recorded her response and her contemplation on the topic and sent it to me. And so rather than us interacting back and forth, what you're going to get is my response to the topic, and then I'm going to pass the mic to her, and we get to live vicariously through her as she is traveling. And the message comes from her current location off the grid in central Idaho. So here goes. What we were inspired to contemplate for today is kind of a continuation or an elaboration of what we began to discuss in the previous episode. What we're talking about today is this idea of the emotional guidance system, and the idea that we may master our emotional guidance system and become the one who cultivates a vibrational mood or attitude that will color and draw to us the brilliant life experiences and interactions that we are wanting. So this is really good and really juicy. And I have made some notes for myself because I want to be very succinct and clear in getting my part of the message across, and then get to Terri as quickly as possible. So bear with me as I look at and read some of my notes for today. The first thing that I want to express, and I know we've touched on this in previous episodes, is that nothing that we are communicating in this series is actually new. When we speak to these universal principles and concepts, believe it or not, they are actually very old teachings. What's happening now is, over the millennia, we as a species have forgotten some of these aspects of our true nature. And so we are in a period of time now where we are moving into a space of remembrance. The next layer to this is that none of what we are communicating in this series is in any way oppositional to the ancient wisdom teachings and world religions as they were originally intended. Their inspired original core essence is consistent with these principles that we are now realizing with more clarity. It's a phenomenon with all things, actually, that over time there can become distortion, things can get lost in translation. There are all kinds of phenomena that explain how we have lost sight of these principles in a sort of cultural way. So I'm expressing all of this because I hope to invite all of us to open up our minds and hearts just a little bit and understand that this is just a remembering, a re-knowing, a realizing of these universal principles that have always been true, and they will continue to be true. Okay, very good. So, just as a reminder and a recap, we live in an attraction-based universe. What does that mean? That means that there is no exclusion as a principle. The principle that is operative in our life is the principle of attraction. And what that means is, I'm going to say it in a few different ways. You will receive what you think about, whether you want it or not. Or said a different way, you get back what you put out. Or said a different way, your consciousness creates form. Our collective consciousness creates the collective form, the collective manifestation that we are experiencing and living through. With that as a basic premise, I will add the source of creation, the energy that created the world, source energy that manifested you on purpose as an idea, is here. It is always here. It is in every cell of your physical body. It is in every atom or neuron in the walls and the floor and the ground and the trees and the air and the sky, everything around you. And you are in constant communication with it, whether you realize that and take advantage of that truth or not. And then I will add to that, your inner being or your source energy or your source self, whatever you wish to call it, is pure positive energy without bias or negative energy or what we perceive as negative. It never feels negatively focused at you or to you or through you. It doesn't judge, it doesn't blame, it doesn't shame, it doesn't criticize. It only loves and flows only love to you and through you and to others and through others, and it loves others through you and it gives you love through others. That's the only way it operates. So, if you can imagine, we may have the goal, as we are here in this physical 3D dense life experience, of bringing our point of perspective or our level of consciousness into coherence, receptivity, and alignment with that aspect of what and who we are. But that's something we have to acquiesce to or become coherent with. Because we have free will, we are able to hold ourselves in resistance to that aspect of who and what we are. We are able to deny it or resist it or ignore it or disown it. And it's always there in the background as a presence in our consciousness, always supporting us and saying yes to whatever we decide. I hope you can follow that. I wanted to make it as clear and distinct as I possibly could to set the scene for where we're headed next. And I also want to add, before I get into the specifics of the emotional guidance system, that not only have I been in a period of deep study on these subjects, the subjects of these universal principles, for the last number of years from a variety of different sources, but I've also been, again, observing the phenomena in my own life experience so that I can validate the truth of it from my perspective. So everything that I'm saying to you, I have experienced firsthand the efficacy and the truth of it. Okay, very good. So, in the last episode, Terri expressed that some of her colleagues and clients were seeking some idea of a metric for how to know that they are on the right track, that their commitment to their spiritual life, their realization was effective, that they were moving in the right direction. And where we were inspired to, in response to that, was to remember the awesome power of our emotional guidance system. So, given everything that I kind of expressed in the introduction to set the scene for this talk, one might ask, well, how do I know when or if I'm in alignment with my higher self, my true self, my source self, versus when I'm operating in disconnection? And this is a magical thing to realize, which is that as a species, we all have been gifted with this emotional guidance system, which, as we cultivate an awareness of our emotional guidance system, we realize that it is indicating to us in each moment our level of alignment and coherence and receptivity to the source of all things. Now, this is, again, not new knowledge, but it's a paradigm shift because we have forgotten that we have this connection. So our purpose in this series, and specifically in this episode today, is to remind us of it. So how are you feeling is a question to always be asking yourself, to always be aware of. And what I want to say is, first, all emotions are right. So we are not inviting any of us to criticize ourselves or judge ourselves for the way we feel. It's not bad to feel bad. What we need to do is understand why we feel the way we feel and what to do with that signal. So all emotions are right. We come here to experience variety and contrast. That is how we expand the universe. That's how we grow and learn as a soul on a trajectory. And emotion is the indicator of what we've got going on. So negative emotion, I would like to say, just represents an opportunity. Positive emotion represents alignment and coherence and receptivity. It's really elegant and very simple and beautiful. Oftentimes, as human beings, we sort of have developed the paradigm that emotions are something that happen in response to what we are observing. And that's sort of true, but it's not the complete picture. The complete picture is actually sort of like the opposite of that. You are experiencing what you are experiencing in the way you are experiencing it because of the vibrational tone or countenance that you have cultivated. So instead of saying, oh, that man yelled at me and made me mad and I am angry, as you start to realize what's really going on energetically, how you would respond to a situation like that would be more like something like, this man is energetically charged, and I seem to have been triggered by it. You see, there's much less blame, much more objectivity. You're understanding that your emotions are your indicator of a response energetically to the situation that you're experiencing. So what do we do with this knowledge and information as we're moving through our life experience in response or reaction to what we see and feel and hear and smell and taste and touch? So the first thing I want to say is when you feel a negative, what you perceive to be a negative emotion, ask your source self about it. Why this now? What have I come to learn, and what has this come to teach me? What do I have going on vibrationally or energetically that would make me a match to this experience that I have manifested for myself? Can you feel how empowering that is? Next, if you are experiencing a negative emotion in response to something that you're perceiving or sensing, ask yourself if you have any thought patterns or belief patterns in place that are informing the quality of your emotional response to that situation. So we've spoken to this in previous episodes, but far more than many of us realize, we are actually, through our consciousness, informing the meaning of what we experience. If you know that, then you can move into a space of informing it in a different way. If you realize that you have a belief pattern in place that results in a negative emotion, because remember, there's a relationship between thoughts, beliefs, and emotional response. Change a thought, change a belief, your emotional response is likely to evolve. So, what kind of a belief pattern do I have in place that is resulting in this emotional response and this disconnect from the source of who I am? What does my source feel about this situation? And remember, source never feels the negative emotion about any situation. So that's always a clue. If you are in a really charged situation and you can't seem to pivot your emotional response or quickly change the thought or belief, then my strong encouragement to you and many other spiritual teachers out there would suggest this same idea is to get off the subject. So I want to speak to this for a moment because it is a cultural paradigm that we are all subject to in at least Western society these days, that it is our duty or that we are responsible to pay attention to what's happening around us culturally and with others. And, we have social media these days, so we're constantly bombarded with information and stories about everything that's going on with everyone around us without really understanding the energy environment of that and how we are participating with it and responsible to it. So this is a new paradigm, but you have to debunk that whole idea and give yourself permission to realize that you are not required to invest your attention in anything if you feel, again, there's that idea of feeling. If you feel like you are contributing in a not positive, aligned, loving way to what you're observing. Because remember, the truth of what's happening, if you're focused on something negatively, you are investing that consciousness in what you're observing. You are giving it more negativity and solidifying it as a structure in our experience. So if you can't pivot and feel good about it, then pivot and pay attention to something else, another subject that inspires a more positive emotional response from you. And the truth of that is, that positive focus on any subject will better serve the circumstance or situation or person or event that inspired the original negative response in you. You can serve all of us better by finding a way to be positively focused. It doesn't matter what the subject is. Isn't that beautiful? Again, I've proven this for myself before I decided to speak about it. Next, these are some really practical, pragmatic things that we can do to restore our focus and our vibrational countenance toward the positive. Visualize what you want, what you prefer. Use your imagination actively. Create it's like a movie in your mind, and use all of your senses. Like, you can see it, you can hear it, you can feel it, you can smell it, you can taste it, you can touch it. If recalling past situations, if you can recall past situations that, or in which you felt the positive emotion that you're now seeking to manifest. So let's say you're wanting to manifest a feeling of abundance and well-being. Recall a past moment or a memory when you felt that strong sense of abundance and well-being. Conjure it up and make it realized in your present moment. That's a very effective strategy. Write lists of positive aspects. This is an Abraham Hicks suggestion. You can find, I promise you, positive aspects about everything. And if in the moment, again, it's too hard to find a positive aspect about the specific thing that you're in observation of, then find positive aspects of something else. There are so many easy ones. Actually, I'm inspired to Abraham Hicks' suggestion of a few things. Our planet continues to spin in its orbit and circle around the sun in perfect proximity to other planets. There's so much air available for us to breathe. Our heart continues to beat. Well, until it doesn't, but I don't have to worry about that. It's wonderful. It just happens. There's so many of these things that create a positive mood, a vibrational countenance. It's really, really easy once you get the hang of it. So where are we headed with this? For this last section before I pass the mic over to Terry, I want to talk about, I'm just going to call this like the idea of the new template. Like, what does it look like where we are headed? Just to give you an idea of kind of something to contemplate or visualize or think about or inspire you to move towards. So what we're actually doing is teaching ourselves to move closer and closer toward unconditional alignment with the whole truth of who and what we really are. Unconditional alignment. So in the ancient teachings, when love is spoken of as kind of a force in the universe, it's always suggested that it's unconditional. And that's what we're really speaking to here. Can you practice your preferred vibration and frequency more and more in a chronic way so that you stabilize your consciousness within it and as it, so that it becomes your dominant way of operating and moving through the world? And in this way, you become less and less affected or responsive to or reactive to anything that's in your field that is not preferred. And in fact, what you'll realize is that less and less of that is possible for you because you become less and less a vibrational match to it. So when you do experience something that's a moment of contrast, remember, contrast is not bad, negative emotions are not bad, But when you've practiced a chronic state of positive alignment, you become more sensitive to any of that contrast, and you catch it earlier on, and you pivot yourself more quickly, and you return yourself back to your core stability more quickly, and then you become the attractor of more and more positive momentum in your experience, and therefore everyone's experience. Can you get this? Like, I'm really getting myself excited now. So, chronic unconditional alignment. Stabilize your consciousness in the higher frequencies. You become more sensitive to energy, catch negative momentum in the earlier subtle stages, operate more from knowing rather than thinking. Again, thinking, we're going to use that word in our conversations as a suggestion that it's a mental process. There's nothing wrong with your mind, and your mind is intended to be in service to you, but it's not the only aspect of your consciousness. Knowing is bigger than the mind, or the brain. I guess I should say the brain. Knowing feels more like cellular certainty in your body, like your whole mechanism. I know. You understand this? Practice the frequency that feels right to you until you are it, until it becomes you. Then only people, circumstances, and events that match that will come into your experience. I think I was a little bit redundant and repetitive there, but I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, I'm going to close with a couple of references to a couple of the spiritual teachers that I've been looking at and listening to and investing my attention in over the last few years. And then I'm excited to pass the mic to Terri. So the first one is, I want to express a quote from Paul Selig, who channels, who he calls them his guides. They have referred to themselves as the priestly order Melchizedek. This is one of the best expressions of the idea of manifestation that really resonated with me that I've ever heard or read. You think manifestation is getting what you want. Manifestation is seeing what you see at the level of agreement that you have come to. So, as I spoke to earlier, in this world, we have lots of opportunities, there's lots of contrast and lots of variety for us to realize and learn about ourselves through. We come to preferences, we sift, we sort, we select. As we ascend in our own consciousness, we understand that manifestation, it actually ends up being less like we're forcing something to happen for us or trying to get what we think we want. And it starts to feel more like realizing what we see through a level of agreement that we have come to. All of this stuff is available to us, and our work is to tune ourselves toward the realization of it. I hope I was clear in that. And then the very last, this is one of my favorite, I guess you could call it a mantra or an attunement from Abraham Hicks, Esther and Hicks. This is just really clear and succinct. This is something actually that you could just say to yourself upon waking or anytime during the day to kind of retune yourself. I know that I am a vibrational being, and I know that law of attraction is responding. I know that I am source energy in a physical body. I know that I have come with great reason and purpose. I know that I have launched great rockets of desire. And I know that source is on it. And I know that everything is always working out for me. I love that. Okay. I feel like I got a little caught up in the momentum and I was rushing a little bit, but it actually took me longer to get through my part than I wanted to do. As always, thank you for joining us for this. And if you have any thoughts or feedback or questions, we would love to hear from you. You're a part of this and we appreciate you so much. now I am excited to pass the mic on to Terri. See you next time.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, Jared. Good morning to all of our listeners and viewers for 33 North, 96 West. I am coming to you today from the Sawtooth National Forest in central Idaho. So I'm going to start by telling you I'm rough, as you can see. I am outside. I now live full-time in a overlanding rig and in a rooftop tent. I say full-time. We do go to Airbnbs on occasion and see family and friends, but we are doing this 4.5-month expedition. So I am living outdoors and loving every minute of it. It brings its challenges, but that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother time. But it also brings a lot of fulfillment. So today, I want to start by reading from a couple of things. And they will tie into the topic for today, but they're not necessarily directly related, but they will tie in. But they're things that are really strong going on within me right now in my travels. And a big part of my travels and what I'm doing is to bring that to you at 33 North, 96 West. So just bear with me as I share this, and we will see how it all ties together. One of the things that has come up and that I journaled about, and I'm just going to read a really short excerpt here, is about resistance. And something that has really come to my attention over the years, and even more so currently with what's going on in the world, what's going on with the clients and students that I work with and talk with, and what's going on even within myself in my travels and in my adventures. When we talk about resistance, and to bring in someone who we refer to often, which is Esther Hicks, who channels Abraham, is she talks about taking the path of least resistance. Obviously, that's going to bring us into the flow and into more expanded and higher vibrational frequencies and the flow of life. Resources show up for us in the form of everything. The resources we need, the people that we need. You know, people will say the universe just provides, if you will, God provides, just things just come naturally to us when we're on that path of least resistance. But I wanted to go a step further and explain from a perspective that I have been seeing and having, and I've also talked to some colleagues about as well, that I want to go a step further and add the idea of what is happening when we're in resistance. That's the way I'll put it. If we are in resistance, we are ignoring our nervous systems. It is talking to us, telling us what we do and we don't need. We are not to just push through and fight it. We are to honor it. Listen to it, respect it, love it. The medicine it needs is gentleness, compassionate care, and nurturing. Society teaches us to push, have endurance, build strength and character. It teaches us to motivate ourselves and create systems and structures so we can accomplish more. If we take the path of least resistance, slow down, and be in flow, the inspired action comes naturally. Resources, clarity, time, etc. just arrive as opportunities. Stop, reset, be still, listen to the rhythms of nature, which in turn resets your rhythms. You are nature, flow with it as it. And that's an excerpt I wrote in my own journal a few days ago. I do journal a lot on my travels. I journal and write, and also do video production. So that wanted to come through to lead into what we are going to talk about today, today's topic. There's a few ways Jared put it in writing, and I'm going to let him do the introduction, but I'm going to paraphrase before I move into it. There is one more excerpt from a book I want to read, and it is also about nature and resetting, and then that can all tie back into what we're discussing today. So basically, he introduced the topic as pivoting focus and creating emotional states on purpose. So purposefully creating, purposefully being a conscious creator, which is the entire message and reason I am out here doing what I'm doing. I'm very connected to nature and very nature-based. It's very important for me to have the connection with God, source, creator, spirit, nature, Mother Earth, all of that, because that is what I am and who I am. And all of the essence of me comes out through that. And then I can share that with others. So you often hear me talk about living purposefully, living on purpose, living purposefully, living deliberately, living simply. And a new phrase that I have written over and over in my journal is simply living. Actually, I said it backwards. Let me start over. Living simply is simply living. And when you're out here in the elements and you're literally moment to moment working with the elements, and the elements are determining where you will be located, your navigation route, your everything. Will you be cooking or will you be having a snack? Will you be driving and getting to a location, or will you be sitting still and working or having some downtime and a break? But point being is it's completely driven by the elements. And so when I say living simply is simply living, I literally mean that your time and energy is so consumed with living that you don't have time for all the other extraneous, superfluous things. And that's not to say there's anything wrong with those, but it is a really strong way of connecting back to all of who and what you are, connecting with nature, with Mother Earth, with earth, air, fire, water, and ether. And I will tell you something, and I'm going to read an excerpt here in a minute, which talks about nature and all the elements of earth we find here on earth. But it's the same with the cosmos, the heavens, connecting with God, with source. It all is source. It all is. It's not separate. So whether we're connecting on a more cosmic level, whether we're connecting on a more earthly level, or marrying all of that, which is what I do in my journey, and marry all of that together so that it is harmonious and I can be in a neutral state, a state of neutrality to where there is not good and bad and right and wrong and light and dark. It's just all is. It's all source. So again, we're going to discuss the paradigm of being a conscious creator, meaning that your emotions are not just in response to life, but that you are consciously creating. You're consciously creating through your choice, through choice and your choice points. So I'm going to read one more excerpt, and then I will see what unfolds for me to discuss on today's topic. This is from a book by Scott Stillman called Nature's Silent Message, if anyone is interested. It's an extremely valuable tool for me in my travels and my journey. And the way I am writing and telling the story about this journey is very similar to how he writes his books. And I thought that was very serendipitous that it came into my field along my travels. He is in Utah. I don't know the exact location, but he is in Utah when he writes this little excerpt. I hiked down into a nest of boulders to get out of the wind. Now I have a bird's eye view of the canyons, sheltered from the frigid breeze. What is it about the desert? That's the eternal question. There is less life here, much less than in the forest, which poses a childlike essence, youth, vitality, playfulness, curiosity. Deserts possess an older knowledge, vast and infinite. Place your hand upon an aging tree and feel wisdom. Sit upon these stone monoliths and feel all-knowingness, older than time. We'd be wise to listen to what they have to say. Experiencing gratitude is how you hear them best. There is something about this emotion that opens us up, tunes us into a different frequency. Rocks speak through an audible vibration that commands respect, yet at the same time feels welcoming, embracing. Through the rocks, we are getting closer to the core of the earth itself. When everything has been stripped away, the rocks remain, exposed to the light, soaking up great power, eon after eon. Wilderness silence allows nature's message to best be heard. But the mind must also be quiet. The best way to silence the mind is by experiencing awe. With so much openness and vastness, awe comes naturally in the desert, like a shock to the system. That something so immense can remain undeveloped, that something so immense can remain undeveloped, untouched, unspoiled, infallibly beautiful. The mind cannot possess it, so it stalls, gasps, peters out. In awe, we become aware that there is something far greater than ourselves, and it's filled with beauty and glory and brilliance. And we can dance around the truth all we want, trying to reduce the world into words and symbols, scientific facts and charts. But when we get down to the essence of things, we cannot escape the undeniable truth. Love is all there is. Love, a 4-letter word of our own invention, plastered inside every greeting card at Walgreens, yet perhaps closer to the truth than any other combination of letters, numbers, facts, figures, graphs, or charts used to describe the universe. Love, when truly felt, evokes something deep inside us that surpasses logic. Love, like awe, is pure feeling, and feeling is the essence of life. Feeling is the essence of life. When we experience love, we are connected, part of the dance. When we love, we become the music again and merge back into the song of life, harmonizing with the rest of creation. We are born as love, we die as love, and if we are lucky, we live as love, unless we are too busy trying to find it. So, some key words that came through that writing. I want to talk today and bring in, talking about being a conscious creator, I want to talk about the feeling of gratitude. He said, experiencing gratitude is how you hear them best. And it's talking about the messages, silent messages of nature. But that's also, I'm going to extend that to all of Source. There's something about this emotion that opens us up, tunes us into a different frequency. He later talks about love is all there is. And then he goes into talking about feeling. And it's not an accident or coincidence that I've been writing about that quite a bit in my journal when this chapter came into my field, actually just yesterday. So, or over the last couple of days, I would say. The days kind of all blend together for me at this point in time. But, so to be a conscious creator, to be making the choice of the frequencies and the vibrations in which you live and navigate life. The more you're in gratitude, the more you are going to draw in and attract, if you will, those resources, those opportunities I discussed. So when I first came here, it was not buggy in this spot, and now it is. So just ignore the swatting. Part of living with the elements, working with the elements and all of nature. But I will tell you, my view, I'm going to interrupt myself, is epic here. There are solid butterflies everywhere. They are all around in the sun. I'm in the shade, but they are everywhere and just so magical. And butterflies have always been strong messengers for me. So definitely beautiful, serendipitous. There's probably about 10 right now behind the camera. That's awesome. Maybe one of them will come see us. So, okay, so when we're in a state of gratitude, we do tend to attract more of it what we would desire. If we're in a state of lack and focusing on what we don't have, what we want, what we desire, if we're always in the state of I need, I want, we've talked about this in previous episodes, I need, I want, then we're creating more opportunities to need, to want. Whereas when we're in a state of gratitude and finding gratitude in any and every situation in life, we truly start shifting our frequencies, not just in that moment, but in our entire life. Our entire life and our entire world begins to be in that path of least resistance and in that flow. So we have experiences. We have moment to moment to moment, now moment experiences. So when we have an experience where we are in discomfort, in resistance, and I'm not saying these are synonyms, these are various ways that we can experience being out of alignment, being uncomfortable physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in any kind of unrest, discomfort. When we are in resistance, when we are suppressing and ignoring our emotions, these are all ways that we bring ourselves out of the frequencies that we might desire to live in and out of that flow. But here's the thing. If we remember they're each now moments, we can shift it like that. We can shift it on a dime. We do not have to stay there and allow that to perpetuate and perpetuate and perpetuate. Because what happens is, emotion is energy in motion. Again, emotion is energy in motion. So what motion and trajectory would you desire? It's not a judgment. It's not to say there's anything wrong when we're in dis-ease and discomfort or resistance or any of that, because that's an emotion. Those are emotions and experiences as a divine human that we are going to have. And what did Scott Stillman say towards the end of that writing? And I've also been journaling about this. It all comes down to feeling. And we've talked about this in previous episodes too, really asking, what is it I'm feeling in this moment? And we don't want to fight it. We don't want to resist it. We want to honor it. We want to respect it. If I am feeling discomfort and I am focusing on that discomfort, I'm going to continue to stay in. I'm going to give that momentum. That energy will have momentum. So it's as simple as whatever energy I am making a choice point to be in and to have is where I'm going to gain momentum in. So as I start feeling the momentum move of being uncomfortable, I have, again, all these moments, these now moments where I can make a choice, make another choice, make another choice. And when I say another choice, it doesn't always mean a different choice than I was already making. I may have to make the same choice over and over and over to get me back to I'm aligned, I'm in flow, and I'm in the path of least resistance. So let me give a perfect example. I don't want to give it energy, but I think it's important here to make a point. So as I give it energy, then I will shift it back out. So let's just see if we can use this as a little exercise or practice here. I am completely surrounded right now by mosquitoes. And we were pretty meticulous about choosing where I would record and what time of the day and so forth so that I could not be immersed in the ever buzzing and biting mosquitoes. And I did not put on bug spray and all of that, which I only use natural essential oils anyway. But it felt like I can create the energy of the environment that I would like. So it's really interesting because as I'm saying this, I hear one or two, whereas before I was hearing a lot of them. So here's the thing. I acknowledged it. I'm aware of the experience I'm having. I'm aware of the energy that is in my field. And then I get to make a choice. Do I want to stand up and start waving my arms like a maniac trying to get out of the swarm? Do I run and put bug spray on? Do I call my producer and camera person and scream help. What, do I have to relocate? Do I have to restart? These are different thoughts that we can have. These are thoughts related to choices we could potentially make. My choice is I'm going to sit here and be in conversation with you, and I am going to use my own energy and my own energetic field to choose to basically have. In fact, I'll just do it. This is one way that I do it. From my I am presence, which is up here, it's even above my higher self. It is my actual divine aspect and divine essence that is me as God, source, creator, spirit. From my I am presence, which is also soul. It's synonymous to soul, at least in the language I use and how I work with it and navigate and teach. From my I am presence, I declare that I am one with the creatures buzzing around me, and I am one with the nature that we are immersed in. Yet I'm in my own energetic field. They are not invading my space or my body, and I'm not bothering them. We are all one in flow, and I am in the path of least resistance. From my I am presence, I declare this now, and so it is. So that's one example of how I would do that and shift the energy. So, felt like they showed up for us for a real-time example there. Okay. Talking about choice point, another thing to use elements that I'm in, I was having some heat exhaustion a couple days ago. And I just immediately talked about living simply as simply living. I was simply living the experience and making the choices of how I would navigate through that. So I walked in the creek, ice cold snowmelt creek, got my feet wet and my shoes wet, which started cooling me down. I took my hat off. I got a bandana wet in the creek. These are clear crystal water creeks. They're amazing. Freezing cold water, and I tied that around my neck. I was already in a really loose flowing sundress that allowed me to have plenty of ventilation. And I got hydration. And I was already doing all these things, but I was in direct sun. So of course my next decision was I must get out of direct sun. And I did. So I found some trees and tree cover and I got in there. Point being is I took the various actions that I needed to take so that the heat exhaustion would not move into a more severe situation such as heat cramps, which can then lead to heat stroke. So I took care of it and I was fine. Now, I'm using these examples of nature because that is where I am, but the reason I'm using these examples is to show that everyday life can really be choice points that are that simple. So if we take what nature provides us and we take a view of the opportunities all around us of, okay, I've got cold water, I've got fabric that I can remove, other fabric I can add, or I could have even got my hat wet, put that on my head. That would have been also a good opportunity. But I have all these options. I have shade. I have, finding, just like right now, okay, what's the best environment for us to make this video? And what is the way that I can work with my own energy and the energy of God, source, creator, spirit, so forth, to be immersed in with all that is happening and work with the elements rather than fighting and resisting them. So that is a really good analogy in everyday life. So let's take a very basic example of being in society and not necessarily, I'm out in the national forest away from a lot of people, most people. There are people here, but it's far and few between and sparse. So let's take an example. You're in your work environment and there's conflict with somebody. You're just not in the same energy. That would be the analogy of I'm not in the same energy of these mosquitoes and so forth. We talked about, Scott Stillman mentioned what it really comes down to is this is really something I want to talk about. And I know Jared is going to add some very amazing, powerful wisdom to this as well. But this is what's coming through in this analogy. So I'm going to kind of sidestep here a moment. He talked about the whole point is we want to feel. Like we want to feel the elements that we're in nature. We want to feel the beauty. We take a drive on a scenic route, or we go to look at the tulips coming up in the spring, or we go to look at gardens, or we go to farmers market. Any of this, we want the emotions and feelings that stuff elicits. The experience, what the experience elicits, such as awe. Scott Stillman, again, referencing the excerpt I read, being in awe. Like I'm literally looking, I will eventually be able to show you this in another video that my husband and I are making for our channel. But I am literally looking at just like this massive like rock structure mountain that just comes up out of the valley. I'm sitting in a valley. I'm surrounded by mountains. There's peaks all around me. There's vegetation. You may be able to hear it, may not be, but I'm literally not very many feet from a creek, a mountain creek. So my point is, and I'm watching a hawk. Of course, a hawk shows up. I'm watching a hawk soar right above us. There's butterflies everywhere. And I'm in awe. I mean, I just sit here in awe and just say, wow. And then I'm in gratitude. Like, wow, I'm so grateful for this experience. And I'm so grateful to get to share it with all of those at 33 North, 96 West, and all of our viewers and all of our listeners and all of our humanity, all of humanity. Anyone who chooses to come into the field of listening or watching this or other videos that I'm part of or participate in, or messages that I'm giving in various forms and fashion, books that I write, articles that I write, whatever. I'm expressing it and sharing it. And it comes down to what I was saying is we want to have the feeling. We want to feel. We truly want to feel. I'm going to read that if I can find it quickly. I want to read that one part again because it feels like it's so important for us to hear it. Love, a 4-letter word of our own invention, and then fast forward. I won't read the next part describing how that is found everywhere in our writing, in our language. Love, when truly felt, evokes something deep inside us that surpasses logic. Love, like awe, is pure feeling, and feeling is the essence of life. When we experience love, we are connected, part of the dance. When we love, we become the music again and merge back into the song of life, harmonizing with the rest of creation. We are born as love, we die as love, and if we are lucky, we live as love, unless we are too busy trying to find it. And there's another part that I've recently read where he does talk more about feeling, but these moments of awe elicit feelings that we desire and that we are looking for. We are looking for those feelings of joy, of elation, of love, of connection, of fulfillment. Something I really feel Jared and I will be doing an episode on just that soon, because it's a really strong thing in the field right now for me, my husband, and many in our lives that we've had conversations with, is that fulfillment. So yes, those are all wonderful feelings, and they're wonderful experiences to have, and they're wonderful space to be in. To make the choices that put us in situations, allow us to be in the flow, to be in situations and be in those opportunities where we have those. And that is a choice. Those are all choices. Happiness is a choice. Joy is a choice. Playfulness, childlike behavior is a choice. Awe and wonder choice. Connection to God, choice. Connection to these butterflies, the grass, the trees, the mountains, the sky, the mosquitoes. It's a choice. Or I can be in resistance and I can fight it. I can fight every bit of it. I can fight the heat. One thing I have not mentioned is I've been in high desert for a month. Almost everywhere we've been has been high desert. And hot, really, really hot in the heat of the day. And so he talked about the desert and how it's like really brings you back to the most ancient wisdom, because you literally are in each moment of what is, we have a little chipmunk or a bird or something close by. But you're literally hyper vigilant, if you will, in each moment, so that you are working with the elements, not against them, so that you are protected, if you will. I mean, if I were to hear a noise and didn't turn around and look and it was a bear, that could be a problem because we are in bear country. So point being is, it's just you're aware, you're very aware of your surroundings and you're very aware of what's going on. But the reason you're so aware is because you choose to become with it. So excuse me, I'm going to see. Yep, it's a bird. But you're aware because you're flowing with it as it. You're flowing with it as it. You are not separate. So, let's go back to the example. You know, one of the reason I sidestepped is I wanted to talk about we want so much to feel. But here's the contrast. We resist feeling anything that is not the most optimal. We resist feeling physical discomfort, emotional discomfort, mental discomfort, spiritual discomfort. We fight and kick and scream, and we even stand up for causes, and we become part of movements. And I say we just as humanity in general. That's not something I personally make a choice point to do. But we as humanity do that because we don't want to be uncomfortable. We fight it and we resist it, when what we can realize is that we are it and it is us. And because we are not separate, our personal energy and essence and blueprint has the absolute ability to affect whatever we're experiencing. 100%. Yes, that is my message today. We have 100% ability to completely affect the experiences and the energies that we're in. It's all choice. Every now moment, you have an opportunity to make choice. Every now moment and every now moment and every now moment. And that is my big message to you. And I am very excited to share this with you today. And I would be really lit up and even more passionate, most likely, if I were sitting here with Jared or in the studio with Jared or at least on video with Jared. But I'm trusting God, Source, Creator, Spirit, the universe, the elements. I'm trusting it all, that it is going to bring it to you in just the most divine, perfect way. Because rather than being in resistance and saying, I must get to high-speed internet and I must get, rather than doing that when it's not in the flow of where things have been, we adapt. And that's another thing about being in nature. It teaches you have to adapt. I probably change clothes 4 times a day based off the temperature and the climate and am I in sun, am I in shade? And it's a constant thing and I'm ever adapting. I'm adapting to the temperatures. I'm adapting to the elements. That's another reminder for us that we're always have the choice point to adapt and adjust. And I'm not saying overcome, because that's a human construct that says we have to beat it. We have to fight it. That's not the energy that is going to allow us to be in flow. It's that I am going to adapt and adjust accordingly, because again, I'm not separate from it. I have absolute, complete ability and power to affect that experience in that moment. And that would be, again, my overall message to everyone today. That would be, I guess, in my closing, would be, remember, you have every now moment offers you an opportunity to make a choice. And you can keep making the same choice over and over and over. You can make a different choice in each now moment. It's up to you. It's completely up to you. And when something happens that feels completely, absolutely out of your control, rocks your world, shatters you, allow the emotions and the feelings. Allow them. Don't resist them, because that will put your nervous system into overdrive and cause even more problems. Remember that resistance, when we're in resistance, we are resisting listening to our own intuition, to our own nervous system. It's trying to communicate with us. Listen to it. It's communicating, always. And if we honor it and sit with it in silence, just take some moments, take some deep breaths, take some moments, sit in silence and say, in this now moment, what do I choose? And now, in this now moment, what do I choose? And now, in this now moment, what do I choose? It's not, in that now moment, I chose A, so I have to always choose A. You don't. You can reset, reframe, recalibrate, reassess. In any given moment, you can completely turn anything with your power of choice. Choosing to be in the path of least resistance, honoring yourself, your intuition, your nervous system, honoring your surroundings. Honor and respect for people, for nature, for God, everything. The emotions, the experiences. Honor and respect. If that's your choice point, you will always be able to come back to the flow and the path of least resistance. And again, that's for yourself and others. If you are having, I don't remember the word I used earlier, but any contention, so to speak, say in the workplace or in a relationship, it could just be in a public place and you and another person have a different view or perspective. I also had that experience in the last week, and I just stayed in my sovereignty, but I did it with love and respect. I said, I'm going to have to respectfully say no to that. But gosh, I wish you so much, so many blessings on your journey, and it's going to work out even better. It's going to work out even better than maybe you thought. And it worked. It's like everything just flowed. And I guarantee you they found a better opportunity around the corner. And I guarantee you that I was in, I know I was in integrity and honor and respect for self and others. And so if we can step back and take that moment, take those now moments to step back, to reset. I've shared this example before, I believe, on this channel, on this platform. But if I haven't, I'll share it. And if I have, I'm being redundant. When I was in corporate environment, in management, in high, like, need to be constantly attentive and available and all of that roles, my trick, if you will, was there was one of two tricks. One was I'm going to the bathroom. I would go to the bathroom and reset, and it happened all the time. And no one is going to argue that you need to go to the restroom. And my point in sharing that example is it can be that simple. It can be that simple. And when you're not when you're not wrapped up in judgment of what they're thinking about that, it doesn't matter. I don't really care what they think about that. I don't care if they are thinking in their mind, what is she doing in there? I don't care, because I'm taking care of me. I'm being self-responsible, and I'm being in my own sovereignty, and I'm taking care of me. Therefore, they're going to reap better benefits as well. So you can go for short moments to the bathroom and reset. The other thing I would do is go take a quick walk. So for example, I would find a reason I needed to go, if I was in an office building, to a different floor or a different part of the building. I need to go to this part of the building to get this done. Or when I worked at a camp and conference center and was directing in a director role there, then I would just have an opportunity to need to go to another office or another part of the property, or I need to go here, or I need to go there. And so again, that's you removing yourself from the current situation to reset. And you can even tell people that. You can even say, I'm just gonna take a moment. I need to go get this taken care of as my priority in this moment. But we're definitely going to reconvene, and I'll be right back with you, or whatever. You can say it. But again, that's a choice. You don't have to continue to get wrapped up in the experience of that. Same with the relationship. This phrase was said the other day by my husband. It's kind of a new phrase we're going to use in this lifestyle and environment that's offered new challenges. We're going to say, let's just take a moment. What that means is we each go our ways, we each reset, and we can come back, and then we can reconvene in making our decisions and our choices together as a team. But let's just reset, or let's just take a moment. That's it. Let's just take a moment. You can do that too. You can do it in a corporate setting. You could do it in a relationship. You could do it in any setting. Let's just take a moment. So these are just some ways. I'm just sharing ways and examples that come up for you to maybe apply to everyday real-time life. And I wanted to make it very apparent that just because I use nature and the elements and earth, air, and fire, and water, and ether, and God, and source, and creator, and spirit, and all these as examples, I wanted to show you how they apply to everyday real life experiences. They can apply to you in your workplace. They can apply to you at home. They can apply to you in the grocery store. They can apply to you driving down the road in rush hour traffic. They can apply in any situation. They can apply to you in crisis, and give that some thought. Contemplate that. They can apply to you in crisis. Even in crisis, you have choice points. Even when things feel completely out of your control, completely pull the rug out from under you, you still have choice points. You can have the emotions in the moment. You can have the experience of the shock, of the feeling of trauma or chaos or crisis. But you can remember to bring yourself back to, let's just take a moment. Thank you, thank you, thank you all. Thank you, Jared, for this amazing opportunity to be able to come to you from the Sawtooth National Forest and the mountains in central Idaho. Thank you for allowing me to be so immersed in 33 North, 96 West, even when I'm remote. It's so exciting to me, and it's so wonderful. So thank you all. Thank you to all our listeners and our viewers. And I am so excited to reconnect with you again very soon.